Hey folks, my name's Kevin and it's time for a little bit more knife nerdery, and I am really excited about this one. If you've been following my channel, you know that eventually I picked up a Olamic Whippersnapper. And this one is in a Tex wash finish in earth color. And it basically means that it's kind of a bronze tone and it's a cross between like an orange peel and a stone wash. And this particular one is what they consider they call this a Wharncliffe blade. And this is by no means a traditional Wharncliffe blade shape, but of their two, it is more Wharncliffe-y. The other one is more Sheepsfooty. I've really enjoyed this knife, but one of the things I haven't quite loved about it is how short this blade is for how thick the grind is. And so the Sheepsfoot one that has a taller blade shape is something that I thought would probably resolve that some for me. And so I really wanted to try one of those. And if you've been following along with Olamic, you'll know that they stopped making these. Not like permanently retired, but they said they're taking a pause. Well, they focused on bringing out a newer knife. They're working on a slip joint at the moment, but they also said that they wanted to kind of revamp how they were doing the Whippersnapper. And so they finally unveiled in preparation for Blade Show West what that revamp is going to be. And they turned it into a bolster lock. And they had a couple of prototypes of those available for sale at Blade Show West specifically. And a viewer named Mike picked one of those up and sent me a message on Instagram saying like, hey, I saw you like the Whippersnapper. I got one of those new bolster lock ones that they just dropped. Would you like to check it out? And that blows my mind. It blows my mind that someone would buy this incredibly beautiful, amazing knife at a blade show and then go like, hey, yeah, let's send it to a total stranger on the internet. That's so freaking generous and kind. Thank you so much for sending this my way. I cannot wait to open it up. This is gonna be really cool. Let's take a look inside. So that's their case, and they say never the same for a reason, because these things are wildly different from knife to knife. Oh, wow. Okay. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that backspacer. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. So this is now a bolster lock. And they previously have always been frame locks. And a bolster lock, if you don't know, a bolster lock is where they take what would have been a frame lock and they cut out part of the scales on the side, the handle, and allow for an inlay to go in. And so this is the same piece of material up here that runs the entire way, unlike an aligner lock where you aren't seeing the liner material out up the top. And as a result, this is kind of like a cross between a frame lock and a liner lock, because this is a thin thing on the inside of it's kind of like a liner. Oh, I'm doing a really bad job. I'm distracted by how pretty this knife is. But the fact that they are working with as bolster locks now means that they get to use new materials that they haven't ever done before. And the thing about Olamic, wow, that's smooth. Oh, wow. The thing about Olamic is that they do astounding finishing work. Their knives are so incredibly exotic and immaculate and just they've got to be the best in the business when it comes to the way that they finish knives. And the fact that they're doing this as bolster locks means they get to work with new materials they weren't ever doing in the past. This is fat carbon. I think specifically this is like the gold and copper camo carbon, but when they contour it the way they do, it gives it this really mesmerizing swirl quality. And then this on the back is what they call their nugget backspacer shape, because they'll carve these by hand in all sorts of different variety of patterns. And that gold color in the nugget is the perfect pairing. It's a gold nugget. Oh, they've bronze anodized or kind of gold anodized the all of the hardware. And my God, this is just such a gorgeous knife. All of these little elements work together to just produce such a cohesive package. This is one of the most like put together ones. Sometimes because they let you do anything when you customize them, sometimes people build versions of these that just feel chaotic. And this one feels like a really cohesive package. That flicks so nice. Whew. I think this is one of the things he mentioned to me. The detent on this is a little bit lighter. Yeah, this is a little bit firmer. And so as a result, this is a little bit snappier, but it means that there's a lot more pressure on the close. And so this one, while super smooth, wow, they do a fantastic job on that. This is very much in that glassy territory. It means that you do have to kind of put a little bit of force on it to make it close home. Like, it's very easy, but you do have to be intentional about it. And this one, because this is a little bit lighter feeling, this feels like it's falling a little bit, it's a little bit easier to close it. Part of that, of course, is also gonna be that I think the blade shape is gonna contribute to that with how much more the weight is, the blade is thicker out at the end, means there's more weight out towards the end to give it a higher inertia, a higher moment, I guess is the phrase. Basically, more mass further out, longer lever arm distance. Wow, this is smooth. The thing that has always blown me away about Olamic is the way that they do their detent ball ramps. They have always done the perfect detent ball ramp. Oh my God. So what makes a detent ball ramp perfect is if it is sufficiently deep at the start so that the detent ball doesn't have to bounce up onto it at all, and then it's sufficiently long so that the end, when you're going off the ramp, if it's a short ramp, it has to be steep, and so there'll be a hard bump right here that the detent ball will have to pop over, and you'll feel that kind of bump up on. And if it's really, really long, then this transition from the ramp to the flat is really, really shallow, and it feels very smooth. And they do it better than I think anyone I've felt, where it feels like you get it up onto the lock bar and then it's just seamless the rest of the way. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I'm really, really interested to see how this taller grind affects cutting, because that is really my one and only gripe with this. And I think I'm going to end up liking this blade shape more. I was anticipating liking this blade shape better because I really like the fact you can hold it in this grip and you just put your finger down this, and this feels fantastic in my hand. But and honestly, if you're doing utility cuts in this type of grip, it doesn't really super matter how thick the grind is, because you're cutting really just with this tip at the end. And so for that, it might be just fine. But if you're trying to cut through cardboard or anything like that, the fact that this blade stock is as thick as it is, it's not thick, but that it's as thick as it is, and the fact that this grind is as short as it is, means that this, you definitely feel the resistance. And this one, it's just, it's easily 50% taller, but the blade stock is the same. How does it feel in a pinch grip? So if I do that same pinch grip, I find that on my particular hand with the length of my fingers, my finger ends up going right there. And that is probably not my favorite feeling in the world. If I hold it just a tiny bit back, that is more comfortable. Yeah, because then I'm on this flat part still. Another thing that's been really, really impressive about Olamics is that the corners everywhere, the way that they round these off, it's not that it's like crowned really, there's still distinct edges, but everything is as smooth as you can make a transition like this. I have one of these little guys too, and it's just really crazy to me how good they do at that kind of finishing work. It's just, everything is so comfortable. And that's, so like when I said that this is not my favorite, it's just because it is a corner, but the actual corner feels great. Wow. Okay, so yeah, I would hold it like this, and your finger will nestle in right there. And I would put my finger along this back. Yeah, if I wanted to go up here, how far would I have to choke up? Okay, so if I choke up even further. I can put my finger all the way up at the end. That's not bad. It's not the most comfortable because you're working on this kind of wedge spot right here, but it's actually pretty good. And your thumb rests in this in a way that makes it feel like you really, yeah, that actually would work really, really well for like kind of more paring knife kind of tasks or cutting around something. They both have, yeah, those choils look identical, and I think the choil works really well. I will say another thing, I find that this little thumb ramp here works fantastically if you're using it as a thumb ramp. But if I cant the knife a little bit further back, you have to either be behind it or above it. Because if I'm in the middle, then I'm pressing on that, and I don't like that. And unfortunately, I find for the way that I tend to hold knives, that ends up being where I am a lot. I tend to find I push on this, and I don't like it. If I'm holding it like this, it feels perfect. If I'm holding it like this, it feels perfect. But if I'm holding it like this, it feels bad. And this one doesn't have that thumb ramp there. It's just smooth across. And so I don't find I have that problem at all. Of course, you don't get the benefit of the thumb ramp, which means my thumb can slide up better. How's that jimping? It's basically the same. I like the jimping on both on the Whippersnapper that I've tried better than on this busker. The busker is just a little bit sharper in a way that I don't quite love the way it feels, but on the busker it's like hidden back here, so it doesn't really matter. These, it protrudes just a little bit up on. And in most of the grips I'm holding this in right off the bat, I'm either right past it or just on the end of it. That jimping is there, of course, because this is a front flipper, and it's just one of the easiest front flippers. It's just so easy to do, and the reason for that is just how tall this flipper tab is, and some people find that really kind of odd looking because it sticks out in a weird way. It kind of looks like a mohawk almost, but it means that you have a tremendous amount of leverage. And the way that they've done this jimping, it has just enough of a hook on the edge that you get really good traction, and you have such good leverage that you can just really effortlessly do that. I'm assuming this is the kind of thing where I can, yeah. A lot of front flipper knives, I personally can't do that. And the reason is because this part of my finger, on anyone, unless you were like really used to doing this, it doesn't have calluses, it doesn't even have fingerprint the same way, and so it doesn't naturally grip as easily, and it also doesn't have a pad of either fat or muscle behind it, and so it's not something you can push super hard on. So if a front flipper has really strong lock bar pressure, or if it relies on traction alone and not geometry and leverage, I tend to not be able to do that. But on this one, I can absolutely do that. That's a gimmick, you know, like why would I open a knife that way? But it is kind of fun to be able to do that. The real one is that, and let's see how the reach around works. Oh my God, so easy. Wow. That's even better than the one I have. Whew, wow. Yeah, I am so far thrilled with this. Oh, that's another thing I really wanted to see. This bolster has a kind of like polished dark blast, and I don't know what they're calling that, because one of their most common finishes is what I have here on this busker, and they call it dark blast. And it's a type of sandblast, of course, and I don't know what they're doing, but it makes it darker. They have a light one too. And I think I'm going to, I've never held it, but I think I'm going to like the way that the light blast feels better. Because I think it's, I don't know, the darker one has this kind of chalky quality, and it's just not my favorite texture in hand. But what they're doing here has a very similar visual look in terms of the uniform blastedness, but it's polished in this way that feels smooth. It doesn't do that chalky thing at all. This I love. If I could get this entire handle finished like that, I would like this knife meaningfully more than I do. I love this thing. I love it, but I don't love that feeling of the texture anywhere near as much as this. This feels great. Also, again, on knives that have inlays or bolsters that cause you to have like a liner and then a scale, the transitions between them is one of those attention to details things that let you really kind of tell the difference between high end and ultra high end. And this is really, really good. This is like the reason I can tell that there is a transition here is because the texture is different of the material itself, not because I feel a line. I think I could probably feel with my fingernail. Yeah, I can. But yeah, this is really, really good. Oh, this is just so freaking cool. Wow. The last thing I'm going to talk about before I end is the shape of the hole. Because you can see that the hole is significantly longer. And obviously that's because there's more room, more real estate for them to work on. Am I focusing? I don't know if I have to hold these in a contrived way. There's more real estate for them to work with. But it means that on this version of the Whippersnapper, you have to get your finger in only this one spot. And it works great, but it's the only place you can put it in. And I find that it works both for putting my nail in and putting the meat in. And I can also turn it sideways and stick the corner in and still get it to work right. But that second bit is harder to do because when I turn it sideways, I feel like my finger's kind of cramped up here a little bit. It's a little bit higher up than I would anticipate, and I would want it to be a little bit lower down. And so if you're the type of person that tends to open middle finger flick a knife by holding it and like anchoring against the bottom and doing more of a pinch and putting the side in, I find that this isn't the easiest to do. And this, because it comes down further, makes that, yeah, that kind of positioning feels a lot more natural. And that is super easy to do. Yeah, this kind of positioning where my finger falls, that just fits better for this type of flicking. If you're doing this kind of flicking where you have your nail in, you have fingers out, and you have it more flat in your hand, that's easy to do either way. But this, I do, all across the board, I think I like this blade shape better. I think I like this hole better. I think I like the height of this better. Wow, this is so smooth. Okay, I'm going on way too long. This is so typical of me where I call it an unboxing and then I talk for 20 minutes all about these little details and it becomes practically a full review. But I obviously have only just touched this, so I will follow up and I will conclude this because I haven't filmed yet my small details review in comparison of these two. And if I can get to that in time before I have to send this back, he told me I can take my time with it, but I also just don't want to hold onto people's knives too long. But if I can do that in time, I will include this in it as part of that comparison. But my gut reaction is that this is incredible. I am very impressed by it. And I honestly am super jealous and really, really want one. Okay, thank you so much, Mike, for sending this my way. I am, again, floored by the generosity. This is awesome. Okay, catch you next time.